and gentlemen, today the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, sent an emotional message, and he delivered it while he was distributing aid to farmers. And that aid that was even accepted by Bengal, which had not taken this Kisan Samman Nidhi for all of these years. And during his address today, the Prime Minister said that the past 4 weeks, India has suffered. And we are all aware of that. And ladies and gentlemen, we are also aware that we need to seek political accountability for those who are supposed to safeguard our interests. We, the citizens of India, and our interests at this point of time have to be protected by those who we have elected to administer and govern us. Yes, we have questions for the government, and we've been asking them point blank right here on this show, the Newshour, every night. And we have asked these questions. We will continue to do so. But tonight, what I want to question is, excuse me, no, this is not a COVID cough, just a dry throat. When the Prime Minister of India talks about not losing hope, even that issue has some importance in building up the psyche of the Indian citizen. In fact, today the Prime Minister spoke about overcoming this challenge and spoke about boosting the morale of the nation. The opposition tonight, once again, took pot shots at the Prime Minister and mocked him for these statements. In fact, before I get into the debate, I want you to listen to the Prime Minister, and did he make sense to you as a citizen of India? Listen in to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the nation today.
हिम्मत हारने वाला देश नहीं है। न भारत हिम्मत हारेगा और न कोई भारतवासी हिम्मत हारेंगे। हम लड़ेंगे और जीतेंगे। दूसरी बात, आपको किसी भी प्रकार के खांसी, सर्दी, जुकाम, बुखार, उल्टी, दस्त जैसे लक्षणों को सामान्य मानकर नहीं चलना है।
For opposition parties, the Prime Minister's words were completely empty. But if you put the facts on the table, the Prime Minister's action seems to be speaking really louder than his words. You can't neglect the fact that the Prime Minister has held 28 high-level meetings in the span of just the last 2 months, taking stock of the situation and fighting and making a strategy for a COVID fight back. While the government is accused of sleeping on the wheel, it's significant to note that 75 high-level teams have been formed since September 2020 to fight COVID. While the opposition has accused the Prime Minister of not foreseeing the second wave, it's a documented fact that the Prime Minister warned the chief ministers of a possible second wave and the need to stay alert. While the opposition continues to cite the figure of 6.6 crore vaccines being exported across the world at the cost of Indian citizens, the truth is that only 16% of those vaccines were given as aid under the Maitri project that was led. The rest were all commercial, liabilities that had to be followed. While the opposition mocked the vaccine Maitri initiative, taking help to our global partners, the fact is that the diplomatic outreach last year made sure that when we needed medicines like Remdesivir and we needed Tocilizumab and all of these medicines, these countries actually came by and helped us. We can't turn a blind eye. And the fact that not only medicine availability was ramped up, oxygen availability was ramped up, hospital beds and ICU provisions were all ramped up. But yes, everything seems limited and little at this point in time because nobody could predict the kind of speed with which this infection would spread. But listen in to what the opposition had to say, obviously extremely unforgiving of the Prime Minister.
When the country needed action from the Prime Minister, all that he had to offer were words. When the country needed words of solace from the Prime Minister, he was missing. Today, the country needs action. Today, the country needs answers. Today, the country needs vaccines. The country needs ICU beds. The country needs oxygen. The country needs ventilators. All that the Prime Minister has, his words.
आज देश के प्रधानमंत्री दिन रात लगे हुए हैं कि कहाँ पूरे दुनिया से वैक्सीनेशन मंगा के और वैक्सीन मंगा के यहाँ वैक्सीनेशन कराया जाए। उस पर जिस तरह की भाषा पी चिदम्बरम बोल रहे हैं, राहुल गांधी बोल रहे हैं, ये दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। राजनीति बाद में होगी। ये महामारी है, सदी की सबसे बड़ी महामारी है। इस पर कांग्रेस इस महामारी में अवसर न तलाशे।
So, the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight is just one. Is politics over the surge denting the morale of India? That's the question and the debate coming up on the other side. Modi message politicized. That's the hashtag and the debate.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight, Dr. Sambit Patra, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Shehzad Poonawala, lawyer, Dr. Suman C. Raman, political analyst, Riju Datta, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. But my first question goes to Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. And Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, I want to ask you, why are we so unsparing? There is a time to criticize and there is a time to stand together. The fact is that along with the remdesivir, along with oxygen, along with the ICU beds, what you also need as a nation is that your morale has to be high. If your morale gives up, if the morale of 134 crore Indians gives up, then frankly there is no fight back. What will you fight back with? So Ghanshyam Tiwari, the Prime Minister, when he spoke today, he's spoken after he's made some arrangements which were seen missing. Yes, we can continue to criticize the government because obviously never anything is going to be enough in this country because our numbers are so large. The fact is, we did falter a bit, but the problem at hand was large. But oxygen supplies have gone up, remdesivir supplies have gone up, hospital beds have gone up, vaccination rollout plan to 216 crore vaccination availability right up to December, with the rollout month-wise being tabulated by the government. It's all been planned and put out there. Ghanshyam Tiwari, now when he wants to work on the psychology of the people, what can you have against the Prime Minister at this stage?
Psychology of the people when bodies are floating in seas from Buxar to Ghazipur, and psychology of the people when the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh arrogantly, unscientifically says everything is all right, and the Prime Minister does not do a press conference and says, we ask a very simple question. What is the plan for tomorrow? Who's your team? What is their target? And who will resign if those targets are not achieved? Whose job is on the line? And more importantly, I don't think right now the hero of the situation is the Prime Minister. The hero of the situation is those frontline healthcare workers who are fighting in every which way, facing death near them and still continuing to fight. The hero of this situation are the citizens of this country who are facing a helpless situation, but yet fighting for their lives, for their loved ones. Just before this program, I heard that the interviews of T.S. Dev from Chhattisgarh, Minister of Health, Satyendra Jain, Delhi, and Amit Mitra, West Bengal. Each of them were saying that the center has left them without vaccines, first communicating that there are enough vaccines, and when decentralization happened, there are no vaccines. When you have nearly 10 states putting out global tenders, what message does it give to the world? We were supposed to save the entire world. We took on that mantle. Congratulations to the Prime Minister for taking on that mantle. But when you take a leadership role, you have to measure up to it. It is great to give the gift from India to everybody, and it is clear that when India is on the back foot, the developing nations across the world are on the back foot because the rich nations don't care. They only care about themselves. India cared for the entire world. But it is equally important that in that leadership role, you have to be visible, take questions from the press, tell us who your team is. That team should not be politicians. They have to be professional teams. Right now, what India needs is district after district, clear, transparent dashboards, clear, transparent teams. We have the professional bench strength, both medical and supply chain and managerial in this country, to save lives on a daily basis, take targets on a daily basis. People would work day and night to save it. But where is the team from this government? Who is asking for the team? Dr. Sambit Patra here would not have contributed a single idea to his own government. He's a medical doctor. When people in this same government are not consulted, he is here debating. Have you seen him consulting his own government? Tell me one state government that has said that Dr. Sambit Patra is their advisor. When people are not consulted, there are no teams.
मुझे डॉक्टर पात्रा मुझे डॉक्टर पात्रा तो डॉक्टर कम लगते हैं, आप डॉक्टर ज्यादा लगते हैं, क्योंकि आपके पास एडवाइस है देने के लिए, और आपने तो हर चीज में criticize ही करना है. It's a given. If the Prime Minister keeps the vaccine control at the center, then the states say, why don't you decentralize? When he decentralizes, then you say, why are you making states
solve the problem? Don't argue about it.
When he says that 45 plus, let's...
winning an argument. It is about solving the problem. What is the point of who wins the argument? Solve the problem. Tell us who your team is.
Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, we here on the Newshour have questioned the problems. When there was no oxygen supply, we have questioned it. When there is differential pricing, we have questioned it. When there was no vaccine rollout, we have questioned it much more than you have. Ghanshyam Tiwari, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, I know you are an angry young man because you have no other role to play, just the angry young man, and you're talking about the Prime Minister being the hero. Certainly not. We are not sitting here to declare who's the hero and who's the villain. All we are saying is Ghanshyam Tiwari, all I'm saying is that जो गलत हुआ वो तो हमें कहना ही है. रेमडेसिविर पहले क्यों नहीं था, हम पूछेंगे सवाल. वैक्सीन आपने डिफरेंशियल प्राइसिंग क्यों की हुई है, पूछ रहे हैं हम सवाल. कहां है आपका रोल आउट ब्लूप्रिंट ऑफ वैक्सीन, वो हम पिछले 10 दिनों से पूछ रहे हैं, और आज उस रोल आउट का रिजल्ट हमने देखा है. द गवर्नमेंट हैज बीन फोर्स्ड टू पुट दैट रोल आउट इन पब्लिक डोमेन. सो आई एम आस्किंग यू दैट डू यू imagine that this war can be fought only with remdesivir and you don't need your morals to be up? Dr. Patra, respond. They want questions to be answered. They want transparency. They want the experts to come out because the experts are there. Why were experts missing, Dr. Patra, when the people needed them most?
Navika, hopefully, please give me some time because these are serious issues and I believe people want to really listen to what the government has in store. First and foremost, namaskar to all of you. I really want to be very optimistic, don't want to sound pessimistic, don't want to be an angry young man tonight. Navika, first and foremost, Mr. Devi Sethi's video, which is doing rounds, which has become viral in the social media today, sums it up quite well. Mr. Devi Sethi, a doyen in the medical field, and since my good friend was speaking about medical fraternity, he sums it up. Astronomical numbers, very difficult to fight. We have to be patient. India is doing its best, number one. And remember, as far as size of this country is concerned, the whole of US, the whole of Europe, the whole of Brazil, and the whole of Argentina comes together to form a country called as India. So, of course, a difficult challenge we have to fight. But look at the somersaults and the confusion, which in fact has been added to the platter by the opposition party. In fact, in the beginning of the first phase, we had the lockdown brought up by the central government, by Prime Minister. They all shouted, why a lockdown? Why a lockdown? This is nothing but quote-unquote Tughlaki lockdown. And now, when in fact that was the demand then by Rahul Gandhi, give states the power for the lockdown. And now when the states have been given the power for lockdown, the demand is, why don't you come ahead and declare a lockdown? Why should the states take the charge of lockdown? Remember, that time the question was, why not decentralize the vaccination? Now the letter of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, 7th point of the letter of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, gives state governments a greater say in vaccine procurement and distribution. And when it was announced by Mr. Modi that, well, yes, you will have one of the greatest say, 50% say in procurement and distribution. Why? Why should it not be centralized? I mean, third point, remember, the first question that Mr. Rahul Gandhi has raised in his letter was, why not promote construction work? Why not see to it that economic activities are abuzz? Because we want employment. You have construction work, stop Central Vista, no construction work to be done. And remember, my good friend GST, who is an angry young man today, where was this anger when one of your top leaders, Akhilesh Yadav, comes ahead and says, ये तो बीजेपी का वैक्सीन है, ना, मैं नहीं लगाऊंगा, हमारी सरकार आएगी, कभी आएगी 2034 में, हमारी सरकार आएगी तो हम अपना वैक्सीन लगाएंगे. And today suddenly this angry young man comes and says, तुम्हारा एडवाइस नहीं लिया है how to vaccinate. Please sir, at least show some gumption to speak out the truth. The truth is this country did not have one single PPE kit manufacturing unit. Today we are self-sufficient. This country did not have a single testing facility. From there to 20,000 testing facilities. This country did not manufacture a single ventilator. From there to distributing 45,000 ventilators, Navika. Navika, it's not easy. This country did not manufacture amphotericin B, the medicine which is used for mucormycin, the black fungus that you're talking about. You know, the quota of India for amphotericin B is only 1,700 vials a year that comes from Switzerland. And today we have procured 2 lakh amphotericin vials. I mean, it's so easy to run our government, opposition government in the Twitter, and so difficult to fight it out on the ground. I would conclude by saying, as if we had less problems, we have the problem called as opposition also to deal with.
Well, Riju Datta, I want to ask you. Of course, there can be several lacunae found. Of course, there will always be room for improvement. But there were times when there were problems, people were dying and there weren't enough facilities. It's part of the country where we all live and the population is what it is. And we've gone through that phase of questioning. But there are times when you have to stand together, especially Ms. Mamata Banerjee. You know, she's been invited to several meetings for her advice. She hasn't attended one single meeting with the Prime Minister. But when it comes to criticism, well, everything is wrong that the Prime Minister is doing. Arey bhaiya, aap aake apna suggestion to de dijiye. Maybe the whole country will benefit from that. Why does that not happen?
Navika ji, just give me the courtesy that you have extended to the other guests, because I've got very pointed questions today. And you know, first of all, I want to agree with you that the blame game needs to stop. This buck needs to stop, and the buck needs to stop right at the top, you know, with the person in charge. And today I've heard my Honorable Prime Minister's speech, and because I'm a 90s kid, it reminds me of that Boys Own Band song called Words that all I have to take your heart away. At this moment, we need a Prime Minister, not a motivational speaker. There's a difference. Now, I've got 4 important questions here. First question, the central government gave permission for 70 PSAs in Bengal, but only allowed 4, no transparency, and there is no written document whether they will allow the next 66. So why this Bengal bashing continues? Please accept the mandate and move on and give us the permission that you promised of 70 PSAs in Bengal, number 1. Number 2, the central government has promised 216 crore doses of vaccine by December, which as per Serum Institute, they will ramp up their production by May. But with Serum Biotech and all your import, if you have to meet your target, that has to be 35 crore vaccines per month. How you are going to do it? Please explain. Third point, you know, during the Bengal elections, the only prominent figure apart from our Honorable Prime Minister was our Honorable Home Minister. Where is he? When the Prime Minister says that we are fighting an invisible enemy, where is our invisible Home Minister? I believe there is a missing FIR against his name, that the Home Minister of this country is missing in this whole scene of pandemic. And finally, please decipher this for me. The Union Home Minister of the country, Health, Dr. Harshvardhan in PTI, and I quote, demand for more vaccines from states arouses narrow political passion among masses that harms whole of government approach to tackle the pandemic. What kind of nonsensical gibberish is this? Obviously, the states will demand more vaccines. And finally, if anybody, a Modi ji supporter or a BJP karyakarta thinks that the opposition is only doing Modi bashing, I challenge and I dare on Times Now, take a placard which says, I love PM Modi, and go to the waiting room of any hospital in this country and see the drama unfold. You will get your answer yourself. And that is all that I have to say. Now, can Dr. Patra please answer my question? Thank you.
Patra, before I go to Shehzad Poonawala, Dr. Patra, respond to him. Pointed questions that the government needs to answer.
See, as far as these opposition spokespersons are concerned, most of them would love to burn the candle both the way. If in fact Amit Shah or Prime Minister Modi appear on the television, then their comment is, why do we need a motivational speaker today? It's best to be invisible but to be working. And if you're not seen speaking on the television, why is the minister invisible? Why is he not visible and speaking? So damn if you do and damn if you don't. And as far as the placard is concerned, please carry the same placard of Hail Mamata Banerjee, not Hail Hitler, Hail Mamata Banerjee to any of these hospitals and see the reaction.
Let's do it, Dr. Patra. Let's do it and you'll find out. But you can start by doing it, but don't worry, sir.
Yes,
you are in a
yes,
hospital
let's do
already,
it.
so carry the placard. Let's see the drama unfold. So Navika ji, you have seen how gladly I have got my pointed questions answered. And the viewers have also seen. Thank you, Dr. Patra.
The viewers know. The viewers very well know.
Well,
sir, the viewers very well know where to start and where to
doses.
stop. As far as Bengal is concerned, I'm astonished, Navika. Please, Navika, I'm answering, sir. Navika, just pull out from the archives what Mamata Banerjee said exactly 4 days from today. Exactly 4 days from today, Mamata Banerjee said, I have no dearth of oxygen, no issues of remdesivir. Bengal has remdesivir. There's no problem and no issues of any medicine in Bengal. There's no issue of bed as well. And let me remind you, Navika, you can pull out. She said in Bengali while addressing a press conference that if any journalist shows anything wrong in Bengal, remember, we are under a disaster act and I am going to throw you in jail. If there is any problem anywhere, all you have to do is give me a clandestine call. Mamta, there is a problem. I will show you that video. I will show you that video where she says that if anyone shows anything negative against our government, I am going to throw that journalist behind bars. I have that video. I will show it. So much of it. So much of responsibility, Mamata Banerjee.
While you search for that video, I know. While you search for that video, Dr. Sumansi Raman wants to. Dr. Sumansi Raman's raising a point, and Dr. Sumansi Raman, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Now he has two types of advices. When the center controls the vaccination imports and distribution, then he has a problem with the centralized Modi formula of vaccination disbursement. And when he sees there is a problem and now there is an opportunity to do some politics, he says, मोदी जी प्रोक्योर आप करिए, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डिसेंट्रलाइज करिए. अरे भाई इसका उल्टा तो आप पहले कह रहे थे. सेम थिंग ऑन लॉकडाउन, सेम थिंग ऑन वैक्सीनेशन. आई वांट टू आस्क यू, nobody in their right minds will imagine that India will have, American kind of a situation where there is a lot of infrastructure available. In fact, America, Germany, France, England, all of them have seen problems with the numbers when the COVID waves come and the way they've come at least twice in these countries. I want to ask you, Dr. Sumansi Raman, is it all about one man's fault? Is it all about the fact that the center didn't do it? What about the state governments? Health, after all, is a state subject. Who let us down in the states? Were they asked to be asleep while this pandemic was raging across the world? If they didn't trust Narendra Modi, well, they should have had their own battle plan. Isn't that a legitimate question to ask?
Yeah, Navika, first of all, Rahul Gandhi, to the best of my knowledge, is not running this government, and therefore what he says is not relevant. Apart, either you then sort of obey whatever Rahul Gandhi says or ignore him. Since he's being ignored most of the time, I don't see any logic in, referring to what Rahul Gandhi has been saying.
No, Dr. Sumansi Raman. Well, okay, not Rahul Gandhi, then Sonia Gandhi. No, if not Rahul Gandhi, then Sonia Gandhi, because she's part of the signatory. She is part.
I checked. Actually,
sir, don't be so politically naive. Don't be so politically naive. She at the moment is still chairperson of the UPA, and the opposition leaders have written a joint letter to the Prime Minister. So they try to form a front when it suits them, and they fight against each other in elections when it doesn't. But the fact is they're all signatories advising different things at different times. That's also a fact.
1 minute. How does it matter what?
So what matters is only to train your guns at Modi. All right, got the drift of your argument कि जो भी गलत हो रहा है वो मोदी कर रहा है, बाकी सब तो मैटर ही नहीं करते, वो सिर्फ बोलते हैं. Okay, make your point.
Navika, 1 minute. First of all, I want to correct Dr. Sambit Patra. I don't know where he got this news that amphotericin is not being made in India and until this government. To the best of my knowledge, I know that there are at least 5 companies making amphotericin in India, and at least for the last 20-25 years. I don't know if it is much before that. Abbott makes it. Then you have the Bharat Serums who makes it. United Biotech makes it. Cipla makes it. I mean, I know at least half a dozen companies that are making it. amphotericin B has been manufactured in India for many years, and therefore this is not factually correct. Second, the very important point is that you said, is it fair to lower the morale of the people? Now you have to ask yourself, why did morale go down? Morale went down because there was no oxygen, there was no beds, there was no medication. People were dying in stretchers and in ambulances waiting to get into a hospital and on the streets, and bodies were floating in the rivers. So that is why morale went down. Morale didn't go down on its own. Had people had access to the adequate medical care and had access to the basic infrastructure like oxygen, I don't think that we would have had our morale go down to the extent it did. So you have to ask yourself a question, and I would be extremely happy if words could help raise oxygen saturation for one patient or reduce the inflammation in the lung for at least one patient. If words could do that...
Okay, Shehzad Poonawala. Dr. Sumansi Raman is making a very basic point, and he says that the morale went down simply because, we saw what we saw, and this was negativity all around. And obviously, for everything, it is Narendra Modi who's responsible.
Navika, now I will just take next 45 seconds. I have not interrupted anybody for 25 minutes, and I will only quote facts. And my dear friend Riju Datta quoted a song of Boyzone, which I like, words and only words. But I also know another song the millennials like him or maybe his relatives like, Love the Way You Lie by Rihanna. And I'll tell you why I say this song. The song goes this way because let's assume Narendra Modi is extremely incompetent. There are 5 states, namely Punjab, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, all governed by very, very visionary state governments and leaders. They have contributed more than 50% of the cases, more than 40% of the deaths, and they have only 22% of the population. And let us examine what they did. Let's take the example of Maharashtra. The number of oxygen beds between September 20th and April 2021, when they were informed that the second wave is coming. By the way, the Prime Minister took 6 meetings with the CMs in that period of time. He took 21 meetings in April, and he took 65 meetings overall from March 2020 to April 2021 only on COVID. But let's see what the state government did. Maharashtra state government, oxygen beds. As on September 2020, 55,000. As on January 28, 2021, 27,000. Reduction, 50%. ICU beds, reduction, 64%. Ventilators, reduction, 46%. Let us see West Bengal. West Bengal, oxygen beds, reduction, 25%. ICU beds, reduction, 21%. Ventilators, reduction 26%. Chhattisgarh, visionary state chief minister who was campaigning in Assam. Oxygen beds, reduction 30%. Change in ICU beds, reduction 38%. Reduction in ventilators, 29%. PM Cares gave dozens and dozens and dozens of ventilators. Punjab kept it pending for the last 6 months. Rajasthan ki report hai quota se kept pending for last 6 months. Did not open it, did not touch it. I asked the visionary Sumansi Raman, Mr. Modi, despite taking all these meetings, despite Devi Shetty giving him praises, despite everybody else saying all of this, despite India having only 18 deaths per 1 lakh, as opposed to America having 177 deaths per 1 lakh, even though dead bodies in New York are lying in one year in those frozen trucks, I agree Narendra Modi is not good. But you tell me, what about these 5 states? Mamata Banerjee wrote a letter on February 21st, please let me handle vaccine. I need the autonomy. And then when it was given, she could not manage a single dose, and now she's blaming center. Same thing is being done by all the other states. Sir, I request Dr.
Why not ask the people of those states? No, Navika, instead of us sitting in judgment, why not you ask the people of Mumbai how they think Uddhav Thackeray has handled COVID in that city?
Yes, I will tell you. Very good question. People of Mumbai, people of Maharashtra think Uddhav Thackeray has done nothing.
One time in the last 1 year, he's visited once. He did not give Pune the vaccines it deserved. 24 days, PMC was kept waiting to tender for global vaccines, even though PMC actually sent out a budget of 150 crores for organizing the vaccines from international sources. Bombay, on the other hand, was given immediate permission because it was Jalna was given 60,000 vaccines when the vaccines were not required. You have discriminated against Pune. You have discriminated against Nagpur. You have discriminated against city after city in Maharashtra.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to come in. Ladies and gentlemen, the only fact that I want to put before you is the fact that yes, it is a despairing situation. It is absolutely demoralizing when we see dead bodies floating in the rivers. And no, it's not a lie. Whether it is Uttar Pradesh or whether it is Bihar where these bodies have been found, the Human Rights Commission has gotten into it, and every single human being's soul has to be absolutely upset about seeing this kind of an indignity in death. Having said that, the point is that are we only going to look at the half empty glass, or are we also at some point in time going to look at the half full glass? The fact that the vaccine production pressure has been put, yes, at the moment there is not enough, and we continue to put that pressure on governments. But the ramp up schedule and the blueprint has been put out right there, and the government has promised that by December the entire 70% population which is required for a herd immunity will be covered. Well, it's a promise as of now. We'll have to re-evaluate the situation in December, but at least there is a roadmap. Oxygen supply issues seem to have been sorted out for the moment. Remdesivir supply issues seem to have sorted out for the moment. The fact is, the problems still remain. Nobody is saying that in every nook and corner of India there will be absolute, achhe din arriving. No. We are in a pandemic. Look at Germany, look at United States. They haven't seen everything back to normal even now, and that's going to be a long drawn battle for us. But it's not just medicines pumped into you that will solve the problem. Somewhere the willpower has to come in. Somewhere the fighting spirit has to come in. And somewhere a little bit of a morale booster is required. Well, if the government is being blamed for not doing enough, they are responding with a little bit of ramping up. On the other hand, now we need to give them space to also ramp up the morale. Is that wrong? I don't know. You be the judge, because you are the citizens of India who make these decisions. Is Modi alone to be blamed for this? Or are states also shirking their responsibility? Let's be absolutely unbiased in our debate and in our judgments. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1. Debate number 2 and the GST jab with the vaccination jab. That's the debate on the other side.